Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Back to School with Maz Jobrani. I am super excited. Today we've got on one of my good friends, Paul Virzi. He's a stand-up comedian who's on here today to talk to us about a lot of stuff related to stand-up comedy. The first thing we're going to talk about is the elephant in the room, coronavirus. As performers, as people who perform live and tour, are we going to continue to tour? Are we going to stop touring? What are we doing? Secondly, Paul is going to be telling us as performers, as creators in your life, you need to live your life in order to come up with stuff to create. So he's telling you, take a break from the work and live your life to find your creativity. And third, he's going to tell us how when you go to Target with your wife, don't be afraid to park far. That and more on Back to School with Maz Jobrani. Maz Jobrani, hey, Jobrani Maz, oh, Maz Jobrani, hey, Jobrani, Mazzy, oh, Maz, hey, I got a podcast, oh, Back to School, yeah. All right, guys, we are super excited. We have Paul Virzi with us today, a fellow stand-up comedian who is a very successful touring comedian. Once you listen to this episode, I want you to go to his website. It's paulvirzi.com. Find out where he's performing next. He's going to be in West Nyack this weekend. He's got a podcast called The Virzi Effect, so check that out as well. Also, he's going to be doing the Wilbur Theater in Boston in June, so check that out. And he's in the Judd Apatow, Pete Davidson movie called The King of Staten Island, which comes out in June as well. He's very funny. Hope you enjoy this and hope you find him online at Paul Virzi. Make sure you follow him. I'm here with Caitlin. How are you, Caitlin?
Hello. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Tehran?
Where does that voice come from, Caitlin? That is not your normal voice.
What voice?
But when you say hello, it all of a sudden is sultry. It's hello.
You know what?
How are you?
A lot of people don't know this about me. I minored in jazz vocal performance in college.
Oh,
all right.
That's a thing. See?
That's going to be an episode.
I think it comes in and out. Sometimes I do jazz voice. Sometimes I do vocal fry.
Do you do jazz
Valley
hands?
Girl. No.
Oh, okay.
So was that like when jazz vocalists are they?
Oh yeah, we scatted for sure.
Oh,
yep.
I could do that.
Yeah.
You just did.
You did
Listen,
great.
today we've got Paul Virzi, friend of mine, stand-up comedian. We've never had an episode where we're just talking stand-up comedy. And so I'm happy he's here. He happens to be in town. He lives in New York. I said, come on in, let's talk. And of course, right off the bat, we had to talk about the coronavirus, which we're going to be talking about in the show, and how it's affecting live touring, how it's affecting... Look, a lot of people that come to our shows think that, as performers, we kind of have control of what's going on. I'm getting people messaging me, what's going on? Is it safe? Is it not safe? I'm just trying to follow whatever the CDC, everyone else is saying, and I'm just as confused as everybody else. So we're going to be talking about that in the show. But before we get to that, as live performers, as stand-up comedians, Tehran, do you get people hitting you up, asking you how to get into comedy, how to get into this business, or you never get that?
100%. Simply, if nothing else, for being able to have my show at the Laugh Factory every Monday and Thursday, I have a lot of people who simply, even established comedians who are like, how can I get on your show?
Right.
Which is effectively, that's what stand-up is. How do I get on a show? How do I get there? But yeah, a lot of people always ask me, a lot of younger comedians, which is interesting because I used to ask you.
Yeah. And do you ever get people that you don't know hitting you up, can I get a spot, and then sending you a clip, and do you watch that clip? What's your advice to people that are trying to get on by sending you a clip of their act?
I actually respect people who hit me up and actually are active about it. Not just people who hit me up and go, hey, can I get a spot on your show? That means nothing to me. Especially if you live in LA or New York, where you have an abundance, almost an oversaturation of comedians, let alone talent, who get on shows. What are you actually asking me here? What are we doing?
What's your biggest piece of advice to young comedians starting out?
The same advice you gave me. Practice makes perfect.
Just get on stage.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing any kind of live performing, Caitlin? Have you ever thought about that stuff? You just told us you did the jazz stuff in college.
Tehran, can I get a spot on your show?
Definitely not. But here's the thing. Well, you
cool.
can. You can.
No,
you can be on
no
the show.
problem.
You can open.
Nope.
Have you ever done stand-up? Have you ever done stand-up?
I have actually in New York.
And how many times? Did you get up a lot or just a couple times?
No, not a lot. I did improv for a long time.
What'd you think
but
of
I
it?
hate improv now.
Do you?
I think
Yes and.
Yes. And it's a community I don't feel that I belong in at all.
What were the good things you got from performing live, and what was the thing that you didn't like about it?
Honestly, I didn't like the people. They didn't feel like my people. And I was like, don't fit in with you guys. I think the best thing, especially from improv, is that like the first time you like completely bomb, it's like the most powerful feeling of all time. Like I did this show, just like improv this joke, literally not a single person. It was like crickets, like that's what you heard in the audience. And it's like before that happens to you, you feel like that will kill you. And then it happens and you're like, oh no, I'm still alive.
So I like that. That's that lesson of failure.
It totally is like, oh, it's not that big of a deal and it's completely fine. And then you're confident from that point forward and everything's good.
That's the lesson of failure, which I think a lot of people fear. I think a lot of people think that, oh, if I fail, the world is going to see it. Isn't it great realizing the world ain't even watching
incredible. You? No one cares.
Nobody cares.
And everyone in the audience is like thinking about themselves mostly.
Yeah.
And everyone in the world is thinking about themselves. No one notices if you up.
You know what? Thanks for dropping an F-bomb.
Sorry.
So
I'll bleep it out.
She'll bleep it out. Listen, one thing is that I have said this to parents now. I go, get your kids on stage. Let your kids get on stage at a young age, because it gives them self-confidence, gives them the ability to stand in front of an audience. No matter what they do, they might end up being an accountant, but the day will come when someone will say, oh, we're going to the retreat. Hey, Jim, you want to get up and talk? And he goes, sure, because as a young kid, that Jim was on stage in front of people and learning a lot. You learn a lot. You learn that when you bomb on stage, when you fail on stage,
nothing happens.
Life goes on.
Yeah.
You know, one of my biggest fears of doing stand-up as a young person was my fear that I was going to fail, and that then it would just be the biggest blow to my ego and I could never get on stage again. But the success in stand-up came when I realized I might fail on the first show tonight, but I've got a second show that same night, and a third show, and a fourth show, and if not that night, the next day, and how you just move on. And I think this is a life lesson. I think it's a life lesson with anything you do, whether it's stand-up comedy or you're an entrepreneur or wherever you work, you're a chef, whatever. You're going to fail, and you just got to keep moving.
And also you can get to a point when you like work your muscles or whatever, where it's like, even if you fail, you can get to a point where people don't notice if you learn how to recover and improv. And
the beauty of it, even as performers now, I'm 21 years in. If I perform and if I'm afraid to try new material, then I'm dead. I need to go up and try new material. I just had a bad set the other night at the Laugh Factory. I just wasn't feeling it, and I still got through it. But I was like, okay, need more new material to make me excited about it, and I need to go try it. It's like you got to walk that plank in life. Get up on that plank and just go out to the edge and just go stand on the edge and try it, and realize that if you fall, nobody really sees it. So I like that you had that moment of failure made you feel invincible.
Yeah, I like that you had that moment of failure too, Caitlin.
Yeah, you're rooting for me to fail.
Never. Supporter.
Listen, guys, we're going to get into all this with Paul in a second. I want people to watch. I want people to listen. Let your friends know. A lot of people see the clips on social media and think that's all it is. It's a whole show, Back to School. You can watch the whole hour.
About an hour, yeah.
Yeah, or listen to it in your car. So let your friends know. If you do listen to it, please don't assume that everybody else realizes that they can listen to it. Let your friends know to listen to this podcast. We cover all kinds of topics. Let us know what you think. Send us messages. I'm at Maz Jobrani. Let us know what your favorite episode is. Send us your questions. We'll acknowledge you on there. Let me know if you want me to acknowledge you when we talk about you in our show, and give us those thumbs up on all of it. All right. And as of now, we'll see. I will make sure you follow me on social media at Maz Jobrani across the board. As of now, I'm supposed to be in New Jersey at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center this Friday, Ottawa Saturday, Toronto Sunday, and more shows coming up. So keep following. And if for whatever reason we have to cancel, we'll let you know. But for right now, we are coming. I'm getting on an airplane. I'm coming. I did a couple of shows this past weekend in Austin in front of thousands of people, and we're fine. So far, so good. All right. So just know that. Caitlin, how do people find you?
Y2Kate, Kait _ on Instagram.
Tehran?
I am Tehran all across the board.
And you can see Tehran performing with me as well. Again, we will keep you updated, and we are going to go from there. Let's go now. We have Paul Virzi on the show. We're going to go back to school with Maz Jobrani.
Back to school, yeah.
Paul Virzi, how are you, my brother?
What's up, dude? Happy to be here with you.
So happy to see you, man.
I know. You're the weird thing about you and my relationship, and I was telling somebody, is it's so rare to meet somebody that quick. It happened with me and like Joe Bartnick at Burr's wedding.
Yeah.
And a couple of people, but we met in the green room in
Nashville.
Zanies. And we had a split weekend.
Yes.
So you were doing the early show, I was doing a late show. You hung out, stayed, and then we like went out and we had wine.
Yeah.
Hit it off like I've known you for 25 years.
Amazing, right?
And then we had the chicken.
I felt like you were the East
Hey guys,
Coast.
I was there too.
Tehran
I just
was
wanted
there.
to know. No, it's too late now.
Third wheel.
It's too late.
Third wheel.
Third wheel.
You don't
No,
drink
but you
wine.
didn't stay at the show. You didn't stay at the show the
Memorable.
first night.
I was
You didn't stay at
around.
the show. You didn't
What?
drink the wine. What is
yeah,
wrong with
chicken.
you?
Who got us the room?
He did get us the room for
Yeah.
the UFC fight. Which
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
No, I felt like when I met you, I was like, you're the East Coast version, East Coast Italian version of me.
Somebody told me, somebody in LA, it might have been Joe Bartnick. Somebody says Maz is the Middle Eastern you.
Hilarious.
Or like he's like, it's you.
Yeah.
And it's just weird to meet somebody like that and have that.
We hit it off,
yeah,
man.
it's so quick.
So I'm happy you're here, and we're going to start always the questions
Yeah,
come
so
from my
happy.
son. Let's start with my son, Tehran, whatever.
Yeah, I know the bromance.
all right.
Okay, it's cool. No, it's cool, guys.
No, we
Yeah.
can work on our relationship
happy.
over here.
All right.
No.
So since you are an expert in stand-up, how many years have you been doing stand-up?
Professionally for like 18.
18 years. We're calling you Professor Paul.
Okay.
So that's my son, Dara, is going to address you with his first question. Here we go.
Hi, Professor Paul. I have a question for you. What's your favorite joke?
Oh.
What's your favorite joke?
Now, I have a question. When he says, "What's my favorite joke?" Does that mean bit or does that mean like joke? Like
You can when people ask me things like that, like
Yeah.
I don't know too many jokes, but there are some that I have, and I'll just throw it out. But what's a bit that you're working on right now that you really love, or go for it, whatever. Like what's some subject matter or something that you're on
All
right
right.
now?
So this is.
You don't have to deliver. You can just tell us what it is.
Yeah. So my son came. So my son's 10 now,
Yes.
and as anybody with children knows, they kind of lose their innocence on a school bus. Okay, because what happens is the older kids are in the back of the bus. So now your little angel who's been never understood or heard these awful things.
Yeah.
Now there's older kids in the back of the bus who were either not raised right or they're trying to be cool because of their older siblings. They're saying some wild shit. They're saying
Yeah.
stuff. So my son came off the bus the other day and he just goes, "Daddy, what's a faggot?" Right?
Oh no.
But he was like happy when he said it.
Yeah.
He was like, "What's a faggot?" It was weird. It didn't match the.
Yeah. You're like, wait, you're like,
whoa.
son, was it said with a British accent? Because if it were, then it's a cigarette.
Then it's okay.
So I'm working on a joke now where as a parent I need to explain that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
That's like it's like and I even say in the joke, I'm like, time to be a dad. I was like, faggots on the table, what do you got? You
Yeah.
know? So I need to tell him that, and
Yeah.
I kind of in the joke I kind of revert to my wife, but then I hit it with something that you don't see at the
Oh,
end.
great. I love it.
But it's one of those, and it's kind of one of those jokes that just is. I don't want to say perfect because I don't want, but it. When I first did it, I only had the angle with let's go talk to mommy and see,
Right.
and then it was a laugh. But then it took me to do it, and I'm like, I know it's not there yet.
Yeah.
I know something's gonna come, and then it did, and then it made that. But that is a true thing that I'm going through now. Is that my 10-year-old things are changing with him. Even the way he speaks and the YouTube things, he's really into basketball. He's really into sneakers. He's a good basketball player. He's starting to really, but now some of those videos, he's hearing things and he's got this little bit of a swag now for a 10-year-old. And I'm like, as a dad, I want to be like, we need to pull that back a little bit because some of the things, you don't want to just do things to be cool because you hear it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because some of the shit's really inappropriate.
Yeah, well, I love that you say that because I have my 11-year-old, my 9-year-old, and I think one of the things I enjoyed watching your set was that we get real life stuff coming at us,
Yeah.
and you can bring that on stage.
Absolutely.
Similar to what you just talked about with the word faggot, which now you got to explain to your kid and what is it and it's bad and there's all the above.
Right.
I happened to be watching Blackish with my daughter when she was 8 and my son was 10. And the first episode was fine.
Right.
Second episode, the dad walks in on his teenage son masturbating. And my daughter goes, what just happened? And similar to you.
Wow, and now you got something to,
And I'm like, oh my God. And part of me's going, okay, get through this, you know, because modern day parenting says be honest with them, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then part of me's like, you know, find a way out of this. And then I also was like, talk to your mom kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the other part of me as a comedian is going, how do I bring this on stage?
right.
Because real life comes at us, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I love the fact that your real life thing that's happening right now is coming from that.
Yes.
You know?
But the thing that I've learned is we're skilled enough as comedians now to know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're first doing it, you don't realize that all this stuff they're saying, or you're not good enough to turn it into something that can translate on stage.
And it's not even good enough. It's confident enough.
Yes, confident enough, or to see it too. Like I remember that I have a basketball story that's going to be the closer of my special, and my son said something while we were playing one-on-one where he kind of manned up to me this is a story.
I've seen that, and I love that bit.
That joke.
Yeah.
That joke. I did that joke at Madison Square Garden after I realized that it was other people. That's a piece.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm going, hey, you can't talk to me like that, and I know you're getting a little confident, but you see it now as an experience. Oh man, this is going to be a piece of the next.
That's
which
beautiful.
Is nice. Yes.
Now I want to come back to this in a second because
Sure.
first of all, I want to say people watching and listening that people come up to me all the time. I want to be a comedian. I want to be a comedian. I want to be a comedian. I go, listen, it takes 5 to 10 years getting up 5 to 10 times a week and working
Mm-hmm.
to get to the point where your material starts coming together, where you're confident, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So I want to come back to all this and how you make
You
material.
want to know what's something really funny right now about
Yeah.
Paul's son, who plays basketball?
Yeah.
This is why the NBA is full of people who don't have fathers. Him telling his kid to tone down the swag and not manning up and all
Not
that.
good for business.
And in the long run, that's going to affect him.
Yeah.
Where he tones down the swag. He doesn't man up as much. And the other kid who didn't have a dad is just like, what you say? And
He's going
dunking
straight
and
to the
like, what you
NBA.
say, faggot?
Bro, this all goes into the...
That's really...
So okay, so real quickly, since this is we usually record our stuff in advance and then we air it weeks and weeks later, but today we're recording in time to talk about this coronavirus, and I'm curious how it's affected your touring, how it's affected the way you're traveling, because I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously, let's say right off the bat, there's obviously people dying, so it's tragic, and there's a lot going on with it, and then the economy and this and that. How has it affected your stand-up and your touring?
To be honest with you, I was talking about this before, and I want to be sensitive to this, so I don't want people to be. I'm not trying to try to be disrespectful, but I think, especially in the United States, I think we're getting a little crazy with it, because I actually did research yesterday.
There you go.
And there's over 328 million people in the United States of America. Okay, There's 76 cases. One died, and the person that died, I believe, was like an 80.
A second person, I think, might have died. Someone in New Hampshire. No, second. I don't know. The numbers are changing.
Somebody in Manhattan got it yesterday.
Manhattan yesterday, then New Hampshire today.
Right.
All right.
So I do think, listen, I'm not downplaying it. I think it's definitely something you got to be careful of when they say wash your hands with hot water and all that stuff. But I'm not. And here's the other thing. I think people aren't. You can live with it if it gets caught.
80% of people who get it have like mild to no symptoms. It's the immunocompromised and young people and old people, and it attacks your lungs.
Also, black people
it's
seem
not
to do really well with it. I just want to throw that out
God
there.
bless.
Some guy from Cameroon just got it.
Yeah, and they were fine. The guys,
Just like, no problem.
The black guys in China that got it, the Nigerians, they were fine.
That's because they had no father growing up, and they were like,
that's
they're
how
tough.
it works.
My
They're
lungs are
tough.
tough, man.
I just want to let you know.
Just the swag just got rid of it.
Get out of here, coronavirus. Swat that coronavirus.
It's not a cough. No, so I definitely, I'm aware of it. Like if I see, I will say that I've been on alert with people coughing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of like, it did put that fear, but I'm also not going to not fly to a gig.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the gig.
Yeah.
I also heard today that the mask does absolutely nothing.
Mask does absolutely
mask
nothing.
does
And what it does is it takes away from people that really need it, and people like in hospitals, they're like on a shortage of them now.
Yeah.
It's funny, the other night we went to the movies here in LA, and we went to the movies, and there were people in the movie theater with masks, and I'm like, what do you, it's like, at what point are you trying to wear a mask?
At what point is this just your new kind of this is your
Designer
new look.
mask.
You know, now they have a new
the
mask.
LV.
Yeah, now they have like
Yeah.
a mask
black
that's
one.
like
Oh
a.
yeah.
Fendi
It's
on
got
the
like
side.
an Under Armour logo on
That
it.
would
Yeah,
be
there's
fun.
a lot of them like that.
Sponsored by Nike. No, it's funny you say that because I'm going through
Yeah.
the same thing. So first of all, I'm getting a lot of people messaging me because I think the biggest percentage of deaths, or maybe the biggest deaths outside of China, were in Iran.
Iran, yeah.
Because they've just
Yeah.
mismanaged it, and it's at this point where it's happening. And so I'm doing shows. I'm doing shows in Toronto this weekend.
Okay.
And some people are emailing me going, I don't know. People might have been coming from Iran. I'm not sure. And just like what you just said,
Right, okay.
part of me is like I'm just watching what the CDC or what the authorities say about large gatherings because I did 2 shows this past weekend in Austin, 1,200 people a show, no problem. I did another event in Berkeley, 400 or 500 people, no problem.
But
and
you're
like
not going to South Korea or China anytime soon.
no, but like Paul was saying,
You're
I'm
not
washing
woo-hooning it up.
my hand like
Yeah.
it's nobody's business. And then I saw what's the guy's Cuomo on CNN? Not Andrew Cuomo. What's the Cuomo? Anyway, the Cuomo.
Fredo. The
Fredo.
one they call Fredo.
Yeah.
What's his name? Not
Yeah.
No, Mario's a father. Rest his soul.
The guy that Chris Cuomo.
Chris Cuomo.
Who's, by the way, I think is great. And I'm not going to call him Fredo because he's a big guy and he kicked my ass. But remember that?
No,
dude
but that's
called
what
him-
that's the
what
the
the
one.
guy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what the guy called him, and
got
Chris
pissed.
Cuomo was like, "I'll kick your ass."
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, he's a big dude. No, but Chris Cuomo says something that was interesting because he goes, because I guess the thing with America right now is we were underprepared with our testing kits. So he was saying because there's a lack of testing kits, he goes, I'm at work today and I got a cold. And he goes, I think it's a cold because there's no testing kit. And I was like,
We'll see.
Oh, shit. Because the truth is, I've kind of had this little thing in the back of my throat. I swear to God, I love you all. No, but part of me was like,
It's
what
called
if?
burying the
I
lead.
don't-
Thank you so much. Don't really appreciate that.
The director of all things comedy just left. No, but the
Yeah, he's
but the
outta
fact
here.
is, listen, part of me in my mind is going, as you said, 80% of people that have gotten it, if you're healthy for the most part, like, because I've also read, there was a guy who was on one of those boats who did get it, one of those cruises, and he wrote a.
Oh, yeah.
That
he
was
wrote a-
bungled
Diamond
too,
Cruise.
by the
the
way.
Diamond Cruise. He wrote a piece in the Washington Post saying, I got it. And I was quarantined for a while, and now I'm fine.
2 weeks.
And by
Yeah.
the way, they say if you get it, then your body creates the immune system.
And then you're
Right,
fine.
and then you're fine.
So my whole thing is, my biggest worry is my kids and stuff. But again, I saw
Yeah.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta say that kids seem to have a good, immune system against this. So
Yeah.
as you were saying, as a comedian, I'm just doing as best as I can.
Yeah.
Washing my hands.
Yeah.
Any bastard coughs behind me, I'm like, dude, you had to get on the plane?
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to public shame people, like
People-
to cough and sneeze into their elbows and shit like that.
people. I don't know what it is about the plane, but coughing and ginger ale seem to be plane symptoms. When you get on a plane, all of a sudden you start coughing and sneezing, and you order ginger ale, something you never
right.
order anywhere else.
Why do we have ginger ale
I
all
have
the
no
time?
idea.
Yeah,
And it's a thing that happens
yeah.
specifically on the plane. I've never
Ginger ale.
it's
Watching bad
it's
movies.
symptomatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? You just
Yeah.
watch a bad movie, you get a ginger ale,
And then you cough.
you check.
Start coughing, and people are sitting there. It's like, bro, you were what's
Gross.
up?
The one thing I will say with touring, which is interesting too, because I mean we're watching the economy kind of crash right now, and I always said stand-up comedy, live performances were recession-proof.
Of course.
After September 11th, people wanted to laugh.
Yep.
When the
Yeah.
economy went down, people wanted to spend that $40-$50 on a ticket for a show. This is the first time I think where everyone's going, oh, I don't know. Even they were saying the NC2A is considering doing March Madness without any spectators in the crowd.
Wow.
Super fun.
That's crazy, right? So,
No.
well, we're gonna have to see what happens.
I mean,
Yeah.
one thing that's coming up, Coachella's coming up, and I'm surprised by the lack of concern. But I will say something.
Yeah.
There's currently something around 3,000 without the unreported, about 3,000 cases of coronavirus, and 2,800 plus are in China itself. And people are wearing all these masks, walking around. About 50 million people with HIV, and still no one's having sex with condoms. Like, that's just
That's
the way
fair.
we
That's
think.
true. Yeah,
We're
that's
horrible
true.
at this.
You got to,
Yeah.
and you got to. The media makes a. I'm not saying that it's not something that people should worry about, but the media likes something to talk about too.
Sure, of course.
You know, like when a debate's over and nothing's really going on.
Yes.
Fear
it's
is
like
like
it's a fear
huge
is a
motivator
Fear is a
for
big
watching,
thing too.
yeah.
I agree with you. I think if you look at the numbers,
Yeah.
the amount of people here and the amount. Now, if I'm in China, I think it's if I'm in China, I feel like we're acting like it's China a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But I did hear that the Olympics may have
Yeah,
issues.
Tokyo. Yeah.
See, that's something that, like, in the masses, that's something that I think is a genuine concern. But I'm not going to not go to a Laker game, tomorrow night. And,
Right.
and
No, if
enjoy.
you have Laker tickets, you gotta go, man.
Well, yeah, that's worth dying for.
And if you have an extra one, let me know.
The Sixers. This is a
Listen,
good game.
if LeBron's
Sixers,
playing,
yeah.
coronavirus, LeBron,
No,
I don't know.
Listen, you're right. You're
Correct.
absolutely right. But I think it's like it's taking it seriously, but wash your hands, do
Yes.
whatever you can, but also follow what the experts are saying. So one of the things somebody pointed out, I guess Johns Hopkins University has this map you can go on,
Oh, is that
and
right?
it tells you the number of cases, where the cases are, et cetera, et
Yes.
cetera. U.S. is gonna increase, of course, because
Yeah.
we haven't even tested enough people to really know.
Yeah.
And we have the third largest population. It's not like we
Yeah.
have a small population.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not China and India, but we're pretty big.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
But also for live shows, I think part of it is people want to come out, they want to laugh. And listen, I think to myself, until we're told not to do them by the experts, I think we got to keep going because that's what we
Yeah.
do. And it's not just about like making money. It's about this is what we bring to the to kind of calm the nerves.
It's right, right. It's almost like let's forget all this shit and laugh about it. And but if they did say, hey, don't go out,
Yeah.
then And I live up in the country. I live an hour north of Manhattan.
Yeah.
I live in farm country.
Yeah.
There's horses and land and all that. So when I'm done my sets, I go up there. Now it's like when there's a line of people after a show to shake hands. That's kind of
Dap them up. You
Hi.
just give them the
that's-
fist.
I'm gonna end up
Yeah.
wiping.
A
Yeah,
little
just wipe
wave.
that. Yeah.
Well, I was saying the stock market's down, but fist bumps are up.
Yeah.
But I'm actually cutting out the meet and greet after because my point is
Oh, God.
my point is part of it is like I don't want to spread anything extra. But if they come see the show and they're not like hugging people and stuff, I think we're good. But
Yeah.
you don't need the meet and greet right now. You know what I'm saying? Until we find out.
We'll talk about that.
You could
we
do
have
a meet
we
and
have
greet
a
in a
whole merch
hazmat
thing.
suit.
Look, we'll discuss. This is show business. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying.
No, but ultimately, I'm happy to hear what you're doing as well. I think we got to keep going forward and listen
Yeah.
to the experts. And
Yeah.
look, paranoia is out there, but when you look at the statistics, they're saying 80% recover. They're saying elderly and more people with weaker immune systems are the ones being affected by it. And we just got to try and be as cautious as possible, but keep moving forward.
Feel bad for flight attendants, by the way. By the
know.
way, professionally, flight attendants
That is
have the
messed
worst. They get sick the most. They have the worst jobs when it comes to that,
Makes
regardless of coronavirus. That's
Yeah.
actually a thing that's built in.
Yeah.
They've gone, their unions have gone up against that.
Can they
about the
ban?
workdays.
I know this is crazy to say, but can they ban or stop flights?
They have.
to
Yeah.
China.
They have.
They
to,
have.
They have.
Like, oh,
to
they ha-
China to some parts of China. Some airlines have stopped them to Italy.
Yeah.
I heard
Iran-
Italy. I heard Iran
And China.
Italy and China are like the
Yeah.
three where it's like
Yes.
really bad right now.
Yeah, there's
So
outbreaks.
Yeah. Because also it's like the lack of control. And it's also the lack of knowledge. I think that's the other thing.
that's what it is.
Because if you take the flu and they go, the more people die from flu than they are from coronavirus, but then the percentage, I love Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He's fantastic. He was saying that the flu is like 0.1% results in death. This has been 2%, so that means
Right.
20 times more. So if the numbers really start going up, we're going to see a lot more deaths. But the problem is we don't know, like, what's the symptoms? What is, what am I looking
yeah,
for?
like that's the
Right.
thing. Like I know people that had a cough for 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
is it something that can somebody have had the coronavirus and not know and now is
Yeah.
better?
Yes. And
Exactly.
people
There
can
has to be
also-
statistics of that.
Yeah.
People can also be carriers and not have any symptoms
Yes.
and just pass it along, which
is that right?
crazy.
That is
Yes.
crazy.
Because there's
herpes
community.
of
It's the herpes.
virus.
Yes.
Of flu
Because there's
viruses.
community spread. There's people like in Northern California and Washington State who have it, and they're like, they haven't traveled.
Yeah.
We don't know where they got it from. They're like trying to do the,
Yeah.
tracking, and they're like, we have no idea.
the origin history, but
The origin, yeah.
in the Bay, people have been treating it crazy. Shops are out of water.
Well,
and
that's the
canned
thing is that
food.
they're saying that
It's
beyond
really
the virus itself, like the biggest threat because the Trump administration has bungled this kind of so badly is like resources and like trade. Is
Well,
gonna
I'll
be
tell you,
affected.
I went to Whole Foods
we might
yesterday.
run out of shit
I went to
to
Whole
do.
Foods. All the water was gone.
Yes.
I'm going,
Is
why
that
are you guys?
right? People
why
are
you guys,
prepping.
I go, what are you guys buying water for? You could drink the. I mean, you're not going to die from the water from
Our
LA.
water's not going to be shut off.
Yeah, but people are going nuts. So the
Yeah.
number one thing I would say, like you did, is go and read about it
Yeah.
and read
Yeah.
reliable sources.
Absolutely.
Johns Hopkins University, CDC, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of misinformation. Somebody sent me a shot of a JPEG of some like book and was like, this was written 40 years ago. And it's
yes.
there's going to be a virus from the Wuhan, whatever. And I'm going, really? You think 40 years ago somebody was doing this?
Beautiful.
People are going nuts.
No, people are. There's people. There's different levels of panic.
Misinformation.
Yeah, it's misinformation, it's fear. But like if I saw the numbers, this is a good way to look at a virus. If you see the numbers going, like, so they said that there was New Hampshire, there was New York, but we're talking 1 to 2, maybe a week or so. That gives them time to kind of, if you started to see like another 100 cases in Boston yesterday, and then that's when I'm staying home.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be able to tell when it's time.
Yeah.
I think reasonable, rational people will be able to tell I'm not leaving, or you know what, there's still 70 something people total out of all these millions. So, but you keep an eye on it. You got to be smart.
I'm still surviving barely Ebola, Zika, bird flu.
Was there SARS too?
Swine flu. Remember swine flu?
I mean,
swine flu, bird flu. Wasn't there the bird?
I barely
always
made
a
it through
flu.
Y2K. I mean, there was a lot. There's been
There has been that, and it seems like this is kind of at that same pace.
And Ebola.
And then it kind of, and Ebola was
The thing that also makes me go like, what are we like? You know, you always think the people in control have it under control. And somebody was just talking about this who was like a Harvard scientist. She was saying when this broke out in China, we should have started working on the vaccine, et cetera, et cetera.
When did it start? When did it start?
It started like fall of
December.
last year. So we wait, like the fact that we waited till it got here, we're like, now we're gonna get a vaccine going. I'm like, what are people doing?
The
Like as soon as
Chinese
you hear
government.
about it, no matter where it is, because people come to the United States. I agree with that.
Yeah.
You're right
The
about
Chinese
that.
government kind of like
It's almost like arrogant of us.
Yeah.
It's almost like arrogant of us to be like, that's over there.
Yeah, it's not coming. We have a wall.
But we've done it before. The anti-vaxxers are going to be a big problem coming up. Let's see how that goes.
That's true.
Because you're going to have your kids
Well,
in
you
school,
know.
and people are like, well, your kids are vaccinated. That's not how vaccines work. People don't understand how vaccines
All
work.
right, let's go
These
from that back to
anti-vaxxers.
our professor of stand-up comedy. So you said 18, 19 years ago, you started in New York City?
The first open mic I did was upstate New York, but when I started doing spots, it was New York City bringer shows, man. I had to bring, there's like 99, 2000, 99, you had to bring 3 paid guests. You had to actually bring 3 paid guests to sit there, and they would lie to you. They'd go, yeah, you know, the show's at 9. You'll be on somewhere between like 9:35 and 10:15, and it'd be like 11:30, and your friends are just still sitting there. And then you would be so nervous, and you'd go do 5 minutes for free and all this stuff. And so you started to do that, and then it just kept, you know, meeting people. Now, come to this show, come to that show. Stop doing the bringers, and then, you know.
Are they still doing bringers? Because
100%.
I started exactly like that.
In New York, not so much. In New York, it's kind of looked at as like, and I tell young comics, I'm like, if any young comics listen to this, don't do them. Because they lie to you. They lie to you when they say you're going up. Unless it's a fair one where they're like, listen, bring 1-2 people, I'll give you 6 minutes, and the guy's like honors it, then that's one thing. But when they tell you, like, some bringers are like, hey, if you could, I remember there was like
20.
They wanted you to bring like 10 to 20 paid audience, and it's like, I'm filling the room here.
Yeah.
It's almost like I could produce my own shit.
Yeah.
You know,
we could have our own show over here.
With
all these
that's
people.
the privilege of making it, Paul, because there you still need the spots, and the only way you can get up, especially in the beginning, are for certain people are these bringer shows. And even in New York, you're saying they're like trimming it down. They actually have a lot in New York.
Do they?
Bringer shows. They're just not at the main clubs. So most of the main clubs. For example, Laugh Factory doesn't have any bringer shows, right?
Well, okay.
However, like a Flappers or a Ha Ha definitely do. Comedy Store in the Belly Room definitely does because it has that third room. With
What do they want you to bring? How many do they want you to bring?
Honestly, they want you to bring 10 to 20 people.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
don't have
I-
that many friends.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I think you got to have. I mean, because listen, when you first start out, you're very you're hungry for anything that you feel people are doing you a favor.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll give you 3 minutes, and you go, oh my god.
How many bad gigs did you take even when you shouldn't have, just because you were so used to? Oh yes.
You're getting shit on all the time.
I'll drive 4 hours for $1, for
Yeah.
$100.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
For-
because we were so used to, oh my God, they're giving me a mic, and you know,
There was a guy who was a comedian, and he did this bringer, you know, it was like 4 or 5 people, but he said if you don't bring those people, you got to buy their tickets for them. So I paid the guy like $40 to get my 5 minutes.
Easier.
And I was like,
That's
but I was
easier,
like, but I was
yeah.
like,
Way less work.
but I was like, dude, I tried my best. He didn't show up. He's like, well, you got to give me $40. And now I haven't seen the guy forever, and I think I ran into him once somewhere, and he's just
Let's go get our $40.
Yeah, go
Us.
send him an invoice.
That's so
left a
great.
bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Paul's a New York guy. Let's just go there and be
Yeah.
like, hey, what's
Let's
up?
roll out.
How many? Once you got going, what's the most gigs you've done in one night? Because New York City's notorious for the gig.
Yeah.
I hate anything over. I remember most of one night, maybe 7.
7
But,
gigs one night.
5 to 7. But I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I like now, even now, 2 to 3 is good.
Yeah.
Because then when it's that redundant, like after 4 or 5, you're like, wait, did I do that joke on the
Yeah.
other set?
Yeah.
And you know what I
it'd be
mean.
hard to
like
keep track.
Yeah, like I like maybe if I do like 2 at the cellar, or like I'm at the stand and I do 2 and I feel like they went good and I maybe tried something different on one of them. I feel like I got the work I needed, and then I could think about when it just gets like that. It's almost like I'm there for no reason. I'm wasting time. I got a family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like go home and rest.
That's another thing I think that a lot of people that aren't in the comedy business don't realize. I think you stand in front of a mirror and you try your lines and then you go out and do it. But the truth is you got to go in front of crowds and do it over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
sometimes you'll do 4, 5, 6 in one night.
Yeah.
And it's just about tweaking, recording. You record your set and listen to it.
I do for the most part.
Yeah.
Definitely all my long headline ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the city, not every 15-minute one, but
Yeah.
sometimes,
So you're moving along, you're going up, you're getting 5, 10, whatever spots, and then how do you go from where you were a rookie guy and go to the next level? Do you remember what took you to the next level?
to be honest, I think it was just experience and reps. I remember when because I opened for like Attell and I opened for Brewer and then I opened for Burr, and Burr would keep calling me back to open. And I remember when I would be done working with Burr, he would go, when I was young, like, it was like 07, 08 or whatever. He text me or hit me up and go, hey man, nice job this weekend. Good job. Right? But then it was like, good job. But then like 2 years later, he started to talk to me about bits I was doing.
Nice.
And that was when I started to realize, he was like, oh, so it went from like, good job, like you got the job done, to now I started to see like, and then when I start to take a chance, somebody that you respect appear going, hey man, that one joke, until eventually people are like, oh man, the set is. So I think it was just like, I was always doing new stuff. I was always trying new stuff. I would always just get up and take a chance. And the more I started to get honest and found my voice, like you said something really smart at the beginning of this when you said it takes 5 to 10 years. It took me about 10 and a half years to be the funny me off stage on stage.
Yes.
And it's always going to be a little bit of more of a performance and maybe exaggerated because you're performing. These people paid, so you're going to give them all of you, but it was me.
Yeah.
And when it started to really be me,
Yeah.
and I started to really resonate with people as the person that I am, that's when I started to see my comedy go up to another level. I turn a corner, so to speak.
I always say that. I say that the longer you do it, the more the offstage you becomes closer to the onstage you.
Yes.
And I remember watching Paul Mooney early on, and he'd go up there and he'd be doing his set, and then you talk to him offstage, and you're like, this is the same guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As opposed to you see guys that are people starting out. I don't care who you are and how original you think you are.
Yeah.
You are emulating somebody.
Yes.
You think you're Eddie Murphy, you think you're Chappelle, you think you're Carlin, whatever you are. Even the intonations you see, sometimes you're like, oh, that guy's trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
Until years and years later, you go, oh, he found his own style.
Right.
Right?
No, that's absolutely true. But also, I think growing and evolving as a person. So me having children, me being married, I did a lot of things that opposite of what comedians do. I got married I was 29, 30 when I got married. I had when all these comedians were like afraid of that commitment. And I was like, no, like I never was not gonna have kids.
We're gonna edit this part out, right? We're gonna edit all this
Just
out.
call him out by name, no problem. Just add him.
No, so like
Tehran.
but having that family and that home base and like starting to realize like there's another life, and to balance a real personal life and then this comedian life made me a better comedian.
Yes.
Because if I just stayed in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio in New York and it was about spot and maybe go out and drink and all that, if it was just about comedy, it's not a good place to be if it's just that. Like, I didn't want that. Like, comedy it's what I do, it's not who I am. And that's a really big thing. It's like, it's what I do. And I love doing it, and it's been a dream of mine, but not having kids and not having a wife and not having a home and all that stuff, that was never, like, I'm not doing that lonely shit. And I never was gonna. No offense to anybody listening if that's what they do want, but my comedy got better when that part of my life, because it's like, you know the way they say, take a week or two off stage and live?
Yeah.
And then bits come.
Yeah.
It's life.
And I think that's true of acting too. It's like when someone is so like, there's a desperation that is so not fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like when someone is obsessive about like their craft or whatever.
Things
It's
don't
like,
matter. That I thought that I thought matter don't matter. All these comedians have this thing like, I got to get to that room, and if I get past in that room, I'm going to get this validation.
Yeah.
That room means shit.
Yeah.
Okay, the people in that room are empty inside. They don't. It's about. I'm serious. It's not
it's good.
what you think matters. Oh my God, I got to get to that festival, and then you know what? And then you do get to it, and you do it, and you're going, okay. Like now, what's the next thing?
First of all, there's somebody at home listening to this alone going, I'm a loser. I have
some
no
guy's got
family.
a revolver compact.
This is the one episode I can't now promote because I give the opposite of the speech to a lot of girls.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Literally the opposite of the speech you just gave.
Yeah.
I give the opposite.
You're like, I can't get married. I'm trying to get to the festival.
I'm
I'm
married to
focusing
my
on my
relationship.
craft.
You are my side chick. Like, this is my main.
No, you know what I like about what you said? Here's what I like about what you said, because it's not that the people in that room are empty. It's that the results of that feeling. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of actors say, oh my God, my goal is to win an Academy Award. I go, then just get out of the business.
honestly, that's really sad.
It's sad because the fact is, I go, because I've heard so many actors say they won the Academy Award and the next day they felt empty.
Yeah.
And what you just said, I think this is actually good advice for life. I mean, the show is called, Back to School. So a lesson here is, live your life, no matter what your career is. A lot of people put off their life. Now, listen, I'm not saying if you're 21 years old and you meet somebody and you go, oh, let's just get married and have kids and just throw everything out.
Of course, no.
There's a certain time where you're supposed to start figuring out what you're doing. But once you're on that path, a lot of times I think people think to themselves, once I have X amount of success, then I'm going to go and find my wife. And then once we're at that point, then they plan it out.
Yes.
Just
And I should have said empty. I didn't mean empty. I meant there's a sadness to wanting something like a comedy club booker to accept you.
Yes.
Think about that. And that comedy club booker or owner might have never even done stand-up before.
Yeah.
So we're actually trying to get this acceptance that we either lacked from our family, our parents, and trying to get somebody that was a fucking waitress or waiter that has now been promoted at this establishment to go, you know what? This person belongs on my stage. And we're like lining up for that. And when you really think about how sick that is, and even giving that person the power, it's actually crazy to think about. So that's what I meant by emptiness, because if that's your only goal, you're missing out on happiness.
I love hearing you right now, because
good.
it's funny, because I've been doing this 21 years and I'm very much at peace with kind of where I am, what I'm doing, and I always look at, hey, no matter what, I'm successful, blah blah blah. But once in a while you'll see either on social media, one of your buddies is like doing something huge, or you'll see like a lineup at one of the clubs and you're not even in town, but you're like, oh my God, I should be on that lineup. And you get in your head and you're like, oh, that booker doesn't think of me the way they think of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And exactly what you just said, it's so beautiful to be able to tap out of that. And that's why I think if you have, families, like the perfect example is like you tap out of that and you end up at your kid's tennis match or something.
I'm going to say something now that's going to blow your mind. You guys ready for this shit?
Yeah.
And I never talked about this but there's something that I believe happens, and I've actually sensed it with bookers, owners, and other comedians, okay? So somebody like you, and I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable on your show, but you're a monster comedian. I think you're a beast. And I think that what you do and your performance and your light and what you bring on there is really dope. And you have that thing, and I think that's why we connected, right? People either, maybe even subconsciously, you or I might not even get ready for this shit. You and I might not even get the recognition, or somebody like us who brings everything in their soul on stage might not get the recognition or sometimes that we want or feel like we deserve.
Right.
Because there's subconscious resentment because of our personal lives and our personal peace and satisfaction. Because sometimes they don't have that.
Yeah.
So I've had people say to me outside of clubs, "Hey man, how's the family?" And when they say it, I'm going like, you don't give a fuck about my family.
Yeah.
You just look at me as a family guy and you're just saying some shit that might as well be on a loop. Right? I had one comedian say to me, "So what do you got? Like 6 kids now?" You know, that's a passive aggressive.
Yeah.
That's a
weird thing to
passive
say.
aggressive. Like why? Because I'm a family person. Because I put my family first.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're making me look like this, lawnmower, white picket fence, only, because you don't have shit and you don't have that personal, because you're sitting in a fucking studio in Soho, for $300 a month. That's the size of a prison cell. And you see my pictures online with me and my kids in my yard. What do you got, 6 kids now? You know what I said to that person? I go, "No, still 2.
Yeah.
Just 2. Always been 2.
Maybe he was being
man.
racist. You are Italian. Just to be fair. Maybe
Actually, it
what do you
was a she.
have?
Actually, it was a she.
What do you have? 6 kids now?
It was a she.
Yeah, she sounds better.
And she goes, "What do you have, like 6 kids now?" And I'll always take that moment and just know what it really was. I was old enough to realize. And I've had some comedians that are great comedians just talk about my family. And I think that part of them, they do think it's a nice thing.
Yeah.
But there's something that
I think that goes back to what you said earlier. Some of these people who are married to this success of their career think if you're not 100%, 150% all the time steeped in your comedy, your development, your whatever you're doing, I got a TV show going, I got a this, and this, they think that, you're not in the game, and therefore, go raise your kids.
Right.
I'm the one who's going to go kill it. By the way, one of my biggest pet peeves, and not pet peeves, one of the biggest, it's actually sad to me. Sometimes I'll run into guys and I'll go, "How's it going?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm up for this and I'm up for that, and I got a TV show I'm working on." And I'm like, no, I said, "How's it going?" Not don't give me your give me your career.
That's hilarious.
How you doing? What's going on?
How's your mother? Well, I got this audition.
That's what I
Yeah.
And the woman playing my mother is amazing.
It's sad.
Yeah.
The woman playing my mother.
It's sad.
So much better than my grandmother.
It really is. It's like everybody's listing what they. And here's the thing.
It's weird.
My wife and I get into fights and arguments where she's like Paul, you got to turn it off sometimes. People go, "Man, you're always plugging dates. You're always on the road." I put everything I have into this because it's my job. But I understand what is, I understand what is really important. So I'm not saying don't make it 100%. When it's time to go, every time I step on stage, I give everything I have, 100%, and I'm prepared, and I do all that. But I'm starting to realize that, hey, my little girl and my son, when they say to me, "Daddy, you working tonight?" And I'm like, "No," and they start cheering, and I sit down and we watch a movie, and we talk about the movie, or me and my son will talk about the Knicks or how bad the Knicks are, or whatever's going on. That's what my kids are going to remember. My kids are not going to remember, I think my dad killed it in Salt Lake City. They don't give a shit.
He's big in Salt Lake. Yeah. That's where the other 6 kids are. Listen, I love that. You actually I got a little teary right now because I totally agree with you. There's so many nights, because what happens is, what happens with what we do, I always compare it to going to the gym. These dudes who go to the gym, or women who go to the gym that are really fit and they're just all the time, they go, they gotta go. There's nothing,
it's part of
there's no turn-off switch.
No,
so when we first start out, if you're really serious, you just go. So I remember I would just call the Comedy Store. I'd be like, "Put me down for Tuesday through Saturday, whatever the days are. Laugh Factory, put me down for every night." And I would just go. And then at a certain point, I realized, I think it was actually Omid Jalili, my buddy Omid, who is this Iranian British comedian, very funny guy. And I think he had come to New York to work on a sitcom with Whoopi Goldberg. And he said something along the lines of "Wow, these American comedians are just going. And he's like, "What about taking off a little time or whatever?" And I realized, you can take off a few days.
Yeah.
And because one of our biggest fears as comedians, if I try not to take off more than 2 weeks. If I take off 2 weeks, because I've gone on trips with the family. We went to Japan for 2 weeks before all this coronavirus stuff. We went for 2 weeks, and
you start getting itchy after 2 weeks.
You got to get up.
Yeah, you got to get up.
And that first set back, I'm always I'm just going to stick to what I did before, just to kind of get
back.
Yeah, get the rust off. But I realized taking time, and like sometimes you have a Friday or a Saturday and you're at home and it's the best thing. Have you watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off with your kids?
Not with my kids.
How old are they?
They're 10 and 7.
Okay, so my daughter's 9, my son's 11. So your 10-year-old will get it.
Okay.
The 7-year-old maybe not as much.
Yeah.
I'm so happy when I can watch movies with my kids.
That you watched?
That I watch.
Yeah.
That, by the way, is a great movie with the kids. The other one with your boy. Your boy's 10, right?
Yeah.
Have you watched Spaceballs with your boy?
Nope.
Dude.
No.
You gotta watch Spaceballs.
Okay.
When they start doing the fighting, the what's it called?
The Schwartz?
With the ring when he's got the
what's it called in
the lightsaber.
The lightsaber. They use their rings and they're holding it right by their penis.
Yeah, and it looks like they're holding their penis.
My son, I think, was 8, and he
Crying,
was falling
laughing.
off the couch
All
laughing.
right, Barry, you're the kid in the back of the bus that Paul doesn't want his son
Yeah, exactly. You're
talking
raising
to,
that
Maz.
kid.
Hey, have you watched Spaceballs? He's gonna play with
Yeah.
his penis.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This is
So then learning that you got to live your life for your career to move forward. I think it's a great lesson in whatever you do.
Yeah, for 100%. So something happened to me at the Comedy Store. You'll like this.
Yeah.
I did perform at the Comedy Store like one time before, but usually when I come to LA, I try to take care of business stuff, and I would usually do a spot at the Improv. But I did one spot at the Belly Room once, and so I get on this big show in the main room, right? So I walked there, and the main green room, there were people. There was this weird, but then somebody was like, "Hey, man, this is actually pleasant back here. This is a nice group of guys. Normally, it's a lion's den back here." So I said, "What do you mean by that?" I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because I did get a feeling.
Yeah.
I got a feeling I got a feeling and a vibe that my insides and my instincts were like, this is not right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm going like, what's going on? And it was Jeselnik was going before me, and Pete Lee was going before him. So I knew Pete. So like we kind of talked about New York, but I'm just seeing what's going on, and I'm feeling this like there was like this weird tension in there. So I'm kind of taking it in, and I've been doing it long enough to know when you kind of feel shitty or out of your comfort zone. I've known to just like what I'm going to do on stage is not going to matter.
Yeah.
Once I do what I do on stage, none of this matters. But I was still kind of taking this vibe in, if I'm being honest, and I didn't. The feeling wasn't great, and I'm just sitting. He's like, "Yeah, it's a lion's den. There's not comics out here, or just they feel like this, and who's taking their spot." And I'm watching the feeling. And then the cool thing was though, when Jeselnik went off and he was kind of, walking off, and it was a Josh Adameyer's show where you give something away.
Yeah.
The Shimmy Shimmy Ya show, right?
Yeah, he's great.
Anthony gave like a vintage Pittsburgh Steelers jacket, and I was coming out, and I'm a sneaker guy, so I came out. I gave sneakers to the crowd, so I gave these like size 10 Pumas out. But it was a nice interaction. And then once I did my set, and I saw people that worked there start poking their head in, and comics start poking their head in, and I had a lot of fun. I had a really good set, and I was like, nothing can control that.
Yeah.
So all the hard work and experience that I ever put in, once I'm doing my thing and I'm working on my new hour, which I'm happy with, nothing could change that.
Right.
But the vibe around that. And then when I got off, it was cool. Like some people, hey man, great set, this and that, and I got paid, and I did that. But I noticed that all you can really control is what you do and your attitude around that shit. People were saying, oh, the store's got this feeling, And I kind of know, because before I was into the Comedy Cellar would have, like, if you weren't in the Comedy Cellar, you had this feeling of, yeah, I'm here, but I'm not in here. And then when you get in there, you feel it. But I could feel it, but I realized, you know what? Nothing could change what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm going home to my wife, and I'm gonna go do what I love on stage. And when I'm done in LA, I'm going home to my family, and that's all that matters. And that's something that I know. But that feeling is real.
It is.
You got to control what you can control.
That's it.
Which is what I love what you're saying there, because it's true. I think even early on at the Comedy Store, I remember doing it like the idea in your head was, I want to get the staff to laugh. I want to get the waitresses and the waiters and the whatever's
door
to laugh,
people
the
and
door
all those
people.
people, yeah.
And then at a certain point, like you just said, I was like, why does that even matter? Like, I should be up here working on what I'm interested in.
That's it.
And just doing my set. And the rest is out of my control. They might get my humor, they might not.
Yeah.
And as you said, like, you feel good when you get the thing that's on your mind, you get it off your chest, and ultimately just, finding what you listen to all these great writers, creators, all these people. Like back in the day, I was listening to an interview with the guys who created Bugs Bunny. And they said when they were, it was Mel Blanc or whatever, their names are always at the end of the Bugs Bunny thing.
Yeah.
And they said, we were on whatever in Midtown Manhattan on the 40th floor, and the executives were on the 41st floor. And then they would come downstairs and they would give us all these notes. Do this, do this, do this, do this. We'd say, great. They'd leave. We'd do whatever we wanted to do. And then the interviewer goes, well, how did you get away with that? And he goes, well, it was making us laugh. So we knew it was funny. Like, we didn't care what they were saying.
Right.
So ultimately, you got to do what makes you laugh, what's on your mind, right?
Yeah.
And not worry about all the results, because what'll happen is, as you just said, I've had that feeling. I still have that feeling, like I haven't been to the cellar in a while. So every once in a while when I go back to New York, I'll get a spot. And I went to sit down at the comedian's table.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, do these New York guys remember me? And as soon as I sit down, Keith Robinson's there, Rich Voss is there, and we're talking comedy like it's no big deal. I go, oh, they do know me.
Yeah.
And of course, 'cause I've been doing this 21 years.
Of course, everybody.
And I
yeah.
know these guys.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because I don't even know when that transition happened.
Yeah.
Where I felt comfortable going in. But it's just doing you, doing you, doing you.
Yeah, nothing can change that, and I totally agree. We have it in our mind. I'm going to play to is that a comedian back there? And it's like, no, just if you stay in what you do, even and that goes for even agents. I remember when I was younger, I would be like, what does Comedy Central want me to say?
Yeah.
What kind of comedy are they trying to pick up? Because I could use that money, and I want to get exposure on their TV. So, and I'm like, no, just you got to have them come to do it. Them what you do.
Yeah.
They want on their network what you do. That's the difference. It's like not playing for them.
Have
If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come.
That's good.
Oh my God, you're right. I'm going to put that in there too.
And promote it and brand it and make sure it's packed. Anyway,
T-shirt.
yes.
Well, no, listen. It's all about doing, and then there's the they say that, what is it? Prepare. What is it?
It's my favorite. It's my favorite quote.
Say it.
It's my favorite quote
Say
in the
it.
world.
Say it.
Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. That's a John Wooden quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's the truth. It's like if you're just ready, they can't.
Say it again. Failure to prepare
Is preparing to fail.
Okay.
preparing to
I
fail.
like that.
Yeah.
I think Maz was going with the preparation, opportunity meets.
Yes, there's that one too.
Oh, I'm
That's the
sorry.
one.
I didn't-
What's that one? This is a good one too.
Luck.
Oh, when I know which one you're talking. It's like when talent and opportunity come together or something.
Something like success
is preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that. So these are all in the same boat, because what I was going to say to you is, and I'm sure this happened to you before, when you have that talent manager or executive or whoever it is come up to you after a show and go, oh wow, that you're really good, or oh, your audience really loves you, or whatever. Like, I've done shows before, Tehran knows, like when we go on the road and your fan base comes and they love you. And then when you get an executive or somebody who's been sitting in an office and they come see you and they go, where have you been? And you're like, no, where have you been?
Yeah, where have you
I've been
been?
working.
I've been working and doing this all over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, that's so true.
Isn't it crazy?
And then what's also crazy is they'll act like they liked you the whole time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, we were watching you. I've been watching you from for a long time.
Yeah.
You're like,
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I could have used that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you take that now? How do you take your success with stand up and go to the next level? You and I were talking about trying to get, TV shows and all that stuff. Are you still working in that direction, and how does that all come about?
Yeah, so for me, my number one love is always stand-up. I did the album, the special came out, was a little better than the album, and then this new hour is better than my last special. So putting that out and getting that done this year is something that we're definitely talking about. Hopefully we do it this summer. And then, pitching a television show. So, like, I didn't know that I would like it, but I really like acting, and I had a chance to perform in the Judd movie, act in the Judd Pete Davidson movie. And
What's the name of that movie?
The name of that movie is called The King of Staten Island.
When does
And
that come out?
It comes out in June, but they're actually next month they're going to be playing it at the South by Southwest Festival. And it's kind of about like Pete's life and his dad and the firehouse and all that stuff. And it's really and Judd was great, but I liked it. So
What are you playing? I'm just curious.
I actually can't say.
Oh, you can't say. Okay.
Yeah, no,
I'm looking forward to seeing
I'll
it.
tell you.
Great.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
But it's Pete Davidson, based on Pete Davidson.
It's Pete Davidson's movie that Judd did, but I love that. So we're pitching. I want to pitch a show and act more and just do what I love. So I was talking about this with Bill Burr the other day. It was like, it's funny how like everybody's like, oh, today you got to do this podcast and that podcast, and you got to get on this and you got to get on that. And I'm like, all right, that's cool and everything. And I do think that that's part of it. But what do you love to do? Because I didn't get into comedy to be a radio show host.
Right.
I understand that podcasting is big. I have my own podcast, The Virzi Effect. I've been doing it for years, but I do it for my fans. I do it for, I like it. And of course I want it to grow. But if somebody said to me, hey, your comedy career, you're gonna not do stand-up anymore, and your podcast is just gonna blow up, and yeah, you'll make money, but you're gonna be a radio host doing the podcast. It was like, that's not what I got. I wouldn't have dropped out of college. I would have stayed in for communications, and I would have done that. So a lot of people get confused. Like Bill said something. He goes, people go two different ways. One, everything that works, let's go there.
Right.
Or like, but me, I don't go. I go like, I love stand-up. And I want to get into acting as I do stand-up.
Right.
And as long as I keep that, I'm going to do podcasts. And I love being on this podcast. I love doing my podcast. But I'm not going to where it's like, now here's how you make it. I love stand-up comedy. And however that long takes, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm never going to stop doing stand-up. I shouldn't even say how long it takes. I'm just going to keep putting stand-up content out because I love doing it.
Let me tell you something, man. I love that. And what this goes back to this whole like learning. I really feel if you have a passion and if you find it, we are so lucky to have found this.
Yes.
I just did a post on my Instagram yesterday because I got a chance to go to UC Berkeley to host some big fundraiser. And I was there with these Nobel laureates, with these amazing scientists doing amazing stuff. And I was watching one of these dudes who won the Nobel laureate, the Nobel medal. He told his story. He goes, when I was like 10 years old or whatever it was, he goes, I love microscopes. So I started playing with microscopes. And then he goes, but the ones I had just weren't that great. And this is like 1962. And he goes, so I saved up my money. I saved up $100.
Wow.
In 1962, that's probably like $1,000 today. And he goes, I bought an actual professional microscope. This is a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
And he goes, I start doing stuff with it, yada, yada, yada. He ends up going to, I don't know, Harvard or wherever he ends up, MIT, I don't know where he ended up, but he ends up going and doing his thing. And he goes, 50 years later, he comes up with something that he wins a Nobel laureate for. And he goes, a Nobel medal for. And he goes, now that microscope that I had is in a museum in Stockholm, Sweden.
Wow.
And this dude's doing amazing stuff. And I'm watching this as a parent of kids at 11 and 9. And I'm going, wow, there's so many amazing minds doing amazing things. And that passion hit him.
Why not my kids?
No, that passion hit him the passion hit him at such a young age.
Yeah.
And so for you, I know, like, to be in this world of stand-up, to go, I want to act, I want to do the podcast stuff, but stand-up, ultimately, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I watch a guy like Don Rickles who did it until he was 90 whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be there. I saw Rogan one time years ago when he was on Fear Factor, coming at the Comedy Store, and we're back in the parking lot talking, and somebody was like, dude, you're on Fear Factor, you're making a lot of money there, you made money on your sitcom, you've done great, like, why do you keep coming here? He goes, because I love doing this. No matter how much success I get, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful. That's why we're lucky that we found our passion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I encourage people. And do you remember what age you were? What was the thing as a kid? Do you remember when you were like, this is what I want to do?
100%.
Talk to us.
It was, my father took me to see Eddie Murphy Raw in 1987. And I saw Eddie. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Eddie is for me, there's nothing. That's it for me. Eddie is my hero. I saw Eddie, do Raw in the theaters. My mom and grandmother were like, you can't take him to that. My dad took me and my
How old were you, like 9?
I was like, I think I was 10, 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And and it was incredible. And then I would always see, my parents had a brutal divorce when I was 5.
Yeah.
And like textbook of what not to do. If
Right.
you're parents,
Right.
It's like me and my brother in the middle, like it was the 80s. Divorce was looked at much differently.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Divorce in the early 80s was looked at much different. Like now, divorce is almost like a, but then it was
It's actually like your parents aren't divorced?
Yeah.
What's
It's
Now it's-
surprising. In
now
this
it's
town,
cool.
was that real love? Yeah. So me and my brother were kind of going to visitation, and it was so for me and we moved a lot. So I would always have to make friends, and I had the ability to kind of be funny and likable and tell stories, and that's what I did. So the combination of like seeing Eddie and that, and having to adapt to where I was and use my personality and my stories and my humor. And then just, actually doing the first open mic when I was, but yeah, it's like, I think this, and my father took me, listen to this, speaking of that, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
This is coming full circle. My father took me and my brother to Radio City Music Hall to see Rodney Dangerfield. And
Wow.
it was the back to school tour, I think. And I remember,
Yeah.
I think Bob Nelson came out and opened.
I remember Bob Nelson.
Bob Nelson came out and opened, and by the end of it, I was sleeping. because I was maybe younger than Raw.
Yeah.
And my dad took me, and I remember I was sleeping on my dad's lap in Radio City in the balcony.
Wow.
And then the next time me and my father were ever in the same room for comedy, he was in the balcony when I opened for Burr at Carnegie Hall.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
So your father's a fan of comedy.
My father, my mother and father, even though they had their split and a divorce, The Tonight Show was always on. Saturday Night Live was always on. You know, my dad loved Johnny Carson. My dad loved Kinnison. He loved Dice. He loved Rodney. So it was always that's the one cool thing, is that both of my parents had really good senses of humor, which is cool.
So now when they come to your shows, they hang out, they laugh, they must be so beaming and proud.
But yeah, my dad doesn't see me that much. My dad's now he's in Florida, he's West Palm.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get to, see me that much, but he's definitely proud. He called me after my special.
Wow.
And I was like, my dad's like one of those, like, my dad's like old school Italian, critical.
Yeah.
And he'll be like he saw me do one thing. He's like, yeah, you just didn't look comfortable. And I'm just like, but he called me on my special and I answered, and he was like, it was great. It was great. And I was like, and that was good. And my mom has been to a ton of shows, and my mom and stepfather are like real supportive. My siblings are supportive and stuff. But I'm obsessed with getting better because I saw where I was.
Yeah.
And when you see where you are, and you watch a clip from like 5 years ago, and then you see now, you're like, well, if I got to here, where am I going to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
And then you see things that are cringeworthy when you were young, and you're like, oh my God, I wasn't even myself.
Yeah.
I had a fake. I remember when I first started, first couple years, I was fake. I would act angry.
Oh, yeah,
Not like yelling angry, but I would be like, what's the deal with, and I would act like it was a defense mechanism to act like I was this tough guy, angry at things.
Yeah.
And I remember my roommate from Boston at the time, he lived with me, we were selling phone, cable, internet, door to door. He goes, you're like a nice guy. Like, that's not you.
Hilarious.
And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm scared.
Was he a comedian too, or he just was observing you?
No. We were salespeople together.
Hilarious.
And he was just a friend, and he was a supportive friend. He liked to do music on the side.
Yeah.
And dude's name was Jared Fernandez, and he was from Boston. And he liked to do music on the side, play guitar. But like, he would go to my shows, and he would be like, hey, one night we were just having some beers, and he goes, you're not that guy who's like, hey, what's this commercial so stupid? Why would you? He's like, that's not really who you are.
Right.
Like maybe sometimes you say that, but I realized it was my defense mechanism because I was afraid to fail or afraid of the crowd not liking me.
Yeah.
So if I'm aggressive, it'll make less chance for them to go at me.
Dude, I love all this analysis because it's like I feel if I could go back to college, I would study psychology because I think that stand-up comedy does that.
Well, you are, I said this, you are, I forgot who I was talking to about it, but you have something that was really actually freaked me out because of the way you saw it. You watched a joke of mine and you go, hey, is that new? Is that this? And it was about how when I go to a place with my wife and I don't park close to the door.
Oh, yeah.
She gets so we went to Target and like, I don't care about walking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if there's just a group of spots, I'll walk across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And when it drives my wife wild.
Yeah.
And I'm going, we could just walk we'll just walk. It's get exercise. Everybody's fat today anyway.
Relatively young.
Yeah, we'll get And she would go, oh, why'd you? And it would start this like agitation thing. So one time we got into it. And Maz watched me just kind of, not snap, but I got angry on stage for a second.
Yeah.
Almost like where I just was like, what, we could walk and he goes, so that's like he was like, so that's like a control thing, huh? And like, he just broke it down. And then I like thought about it and I'm going like, wait a minute. Yeah, why am I so mad?
Yeah.
And it's like, like I can't, and I could try to meet her halfway. And it was like, no, and then me and my wife actually talked about it. And it's like, yeah, it's a funny thing. You saw it. And not only did you just see the joke for what it was, you broke it down why.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember you doing that. And I was like, wow, that's some psychology shit.
Yeah, he makes peace. Me, on the other hand, your wife is wrong. We need to talk to her. What's wrong? Let's start it out.
I still drives me nuts. I'm just like, we could walk a second.
No, but listen, I honestly think when you get true with comedy, you start looking at all this. Like, I think in any art, I think if you look at the causes of why you do what you do and you bring that to the stage. And right now, when you were talking about the whole thing of your father and starting out, and I still have my ticket from 1987. I saw Eddie Murphy Raw at the Oakland Coliseum. It's in an album. I've got it in there.
Wait a minute, you saw him do it.
I saw Raw.
You saw Raw live.
1987. I saw him in concert. You went live, right?
No. My father took me to Movie
the
Land.
movie.
My father took me to Movie Land in Yonkers.
Okay.
And we were in Yonkers, and we went to
Okay.
I didn't see. I saw Rodney. I saw live at Radio
Okay,
City.
okay.
Eddie was the movie.
I saw
Raw live.
Yeah, I saw live, and I've seen the movie too. But I saw it back then because Eddie, for me too, was my guy. I mean,
Yes.
all of our I saw when Eddie came back on Saturday Night Live. You go down the guys that are our age. Every one of their Instagrams was like, "This is the guy who inspired me." Joe Coy had it. Brett Ernst, I think, had it.
Yeah.
All of our guys our age were like, "This is the guy who inspired me."
Yeah.
But what I love about, it comes a lot into this stuff. Like you were going through, your parents are going through divorce, the love of your father's love of comedy, your mother's love of comedy, and the things that get exposed to it. And no matter what you say or do or think, ultimately, a lot of that has to do with our relationship with our parents, and them, and wanting them to laugh, wanting to please them. I still talk about Tehran knows. For me, there was a lot of growing up in this immigrant culture of this is not how we are. Don't say bad words. Don't do this. Don't act like this. And breaking through that for me, I remember the first time I had my friend's mom came to my show, and I forgot she was in the audience, and I cussed. And then I remember this is the Comedy Store original room. It's dark. You can't even see the audience. But I stopped my show. I go, "Oh my God, my friend's mom is here. I'm so sorry, ma'am." And she's laughing. She's like, "No, it's okay." And then I felt more free to cuss in front of my audience.
Yeah.
And then recently we were in Atlanta doing a show, and I'm doing a joke about my dad. And there's this older Persian lady on the side, and at one point I hear under her breath, she goes, "Okay, that's enough jokes about your father. Move on."
Yeah, this is
And
very
I go,
recent. This is this is a month ago.
Yeah, and I had to confront her in a funny way. I was like, "Wait a minute, did you just tell me to stop making fun of my dad?" And she's like, "That's enough." And I go,
"Whoa!"
And I turn to the audience. I go, "I've been trying to get rid of this voice of my parents in my head for 40 years." And I go, "Now they sent this lady
She's
here."
back, yeah.
And it's a psychology session. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was great for
That's
me to be able to
crazy.
make fun of her in a fun way and just go, "No, I'm almost 50 years
See,
old."
that's so crazy because my father had this thing growing up. My father grew up in the Bronx in the 1960s. So he's got it's racist, but it's not real. And what I say by it's not real is I've seen my father interact with all cultures.
Yeah.
And when he does, it's all love.
Yeah.
So I realized what it was. It was the things he was told and taught in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Or whatever in the 50s,
Yeah.
right? So it's just where it's the bubble. But then all of a sudden I'll see him in a movie theater sitting next to a black dude, sitting next to a Spanish dude, an Indian, and if there's talk, it's like a nice thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, this is just where you're from and the bubble and what it's almost like this. And I talk about that on stage. And now that you're saying that, maybe the things that I heard that might have been inappropriate, maybe the way I talk about it on stage to make it funny is how I rationalize it for
Process.
process it and go, oh, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he just, it is funny how when we say things and talk about it, why are we?
Why are we?
Why are
Yeah.
we? And you break it down, the psychological thing of why. So if I'm talking about my kids, it's really the love of my kids. Me and my wife fighting, because maybe I don't want to fight like that.
Yeah.
But I get, it's pretty
It's
cool.
Yeah,
therapy.
get saved there, Paul. Listen, your wife's gonna hear this. You're like, why did you talk about this? I like how you try to save it.
I saved it, yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's
I
hilarious.
understand.
Oh, that's great.
That's good.
No, it all goes full circle, man. Like you said, you're the bit you're doing now with your kid having to deal with kids in the back of the bus saying
Yeah.
faggot, whatever.
Yeah.
And you now, as a modern day father who's evolved from your father to
Yep.
this father
Yeah.
to your kid.
Think about great-great-grandfathers.
Yeah.
Right? Think about in the 40s and 30s when you want to talk about segregation and race. You're in the 30s and your parents are telling you something.
Yeah.
So it's almost like how can you? It's kind of weird, and then it just like you said, each one it changes.
Yeah.
Each one
We
it changes.
evolve.
We evolve.
All right, we're going to start wrapping it up in a minute. First of all, let me go around the table finding out, what did you learn today, Caitlin?
You can't live your life just trying to win an Academy Award.
Don't live your life trying to win an Academy Award.
Pathetic, really.
Yeah. Do family, do
Sorry.
kids. Caitlin, you got to find a husband and kids by the next
That's
episode.
another
By the
huge
next
lesson.
episode.
Yeah.
Tehran,
Working
what'd you
on it.
learn?
Not shaking anyone's hand
Yeah.
ever again.
That's
I'm
a
just
good
letting
one.
you know. Guys, don't be offended. Persians, if I don't do the kiss thing, if I shove your face as you
Yeah.
go to kiss me,
Yeah.
Stay away
it's
from
nothing
me.
personal.
I learned failure to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yes.
That's a good one.
John Wooden, Paul Virzi.
Yeah.
Paul, how do people find you on social?
Oh, social media. It's just everything is pretty much at Paul Virzi. That's Virzi. When does this come out?
We're gonna put this up tomorrow.
tomorrow.
We're gonna go
so you
right
guys
on
could
Tuesday.
check me out this weekend. I'm going to be March 5th through the 8th. I'll be at Levity Live Comedy Club, West Nyack, New York, on top of the Palisades Mall. Yes, it's in a mall, but it's an incredible club. And June 27th, anybody in the New England area, my first theater will be the Wilbur Theater, June 27th, Saturday. And in between that, I'm going to be doing Salt Lake City, Baltimore, and Cincinnati, all on paulvirzi.com. That's Virzi, and check out the Virzi Effect podcast. But come out to Levity Live this weekend, March 5th through 8th. I doing my new hour. I think it's the best stuff I've done yet. So,
Dude, I love you. If
I
you
love you
guys
too,
want to
man.
see some great comedy, go check out Paul this weekend in New York, West Nyack, New York.
Yep,
right?
Levity Live,
I've
yep.
been there.
Yeah.
And if you're not in that area, then just go to paulvirzi.com. Find them online at Paul Virzi. Good man. Thank you for being on Back to School with Maz Jobrani.
nah, thank you.
Back to school. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Back to School with Maz Jobrani. We hope you're enjoying it. We hope you're having fun. And we hope you're learning something. So make sure to let your friends know. Share it on iTunes. Share the clips from YouTube. Just get it out there. However you're listening, let your friends know to tune in to Back to School with Maz Jobrani.
Back to school. Yeah.